Hey, today we're going to talk about financial resilience. Okay, financial resilience. And, first off, maybe we should define resilience. And all that means is the ability to bounce back from unexpected events. In this case, with regards to financial, it could be a loss of income, or, like a lot of people had an unexpected income loss in 2020, right? Due to the government response to the pandemic, right? All the shutdowns and everything else. And obviously resilience applies to many other things as well. Personal resilience, right? Your mental, emotional resilience, the ability to bounce back to life events. Certainly financial is a big part of that. Okay, so what are some ways that we can develop financial resilience? One way, right off the bat, and I've talked about this before on other videos, and that is so for example, I've talked about the 30% rule. Basically live off 70% of everything you make, right? You're taking 30% and have a kind of a systemized approach to what to do with that. But the reality is if you're used to living off 70% of what you make, if you do take a 20 or 30% hit in your income, well, then you'll be fine. You might have to put the 30% rule on hold for a little while. Okay? Right, that's the first way, right? Is when times are good, get used to living off less. I mean, it sounds simple, and it is. Just not easy all the time. Right, so that's one thing. And this is especially important it's important for everyone, but it's especially important for people whose incomes kind of go up and down, right? Maybe it's not, they don't have a steady job, for example. Maybe they do more, or they're self-employed, and, that income fluctuates. So that's important, right? That's the first thing, right? That right immediately, it's immediate resilience right there. You already automatically have a 30% cushion, right? If you get used to it. And to a person that I've seen, worked with, it can be done. Sometimes it takes time to build into that, but it can be done. Okay, the next thing I would say is things like high interest debt. Obviously, if you can lower your monthly expenses, and again, I'm talking like outside of this whole idea of 30%, if you can lower your expenses, so maybe that's like right now you have built into your budget, a credit card payment, because you have a credit card bill and you can't just pay it all off, right? And maybe you're paying, say, $250 a month to your credit card. Well, if you can get that paid off, right, that's going to give you an additional $250 buffer for financial resilience. So basically what I'm saying is financial resilience has to be a part of your plan. And one thing to consider is financial resilience is not always the most efficient, okay? But it's bringing you resilience. I think it's very important. Okay, an example, and again, this is up to you, your imagination. You gotta get creative and think through this stuff to be able to develop financial resilience. You got to be able to ask questions like, questions to yourself, saying, how could I be more resilient financially, right? So, what does that look like? Okay, so that's something to think about. I'll give you another example. So, when you look at commodities. Okay, you look at and true commodities like the food in your house. That is a commodity. If you had, let's just say, if you had 6 months worth of food in your house, does that add to your financial resiliency? Well, of course it does. If you had an income loss, you could eat down that food, and that's money that you don't have to spend on a month-to-month basis, right? So one aspect of financial resilience is, the idea of an emergency fund. Obviously, having an emergency fund increases financial resilience. But as I've talked about before, the whole idea of 3 to 6 months worth of expenses as an emergency fund, I really do think that is a dead idea. In a high inflationary environment, it's just not feasible in my mind. It's a waste. You do want access to capital, you want access to money, but you don't want it to be your cash sitting in savings account or money market account that's paying nothing. It's losing value, literally. So you have to consider that with regards to financial resilience, right? Again, I'm a fan of an emergency fund, just a much smaller one than conventional wisdom states. All right, and let's take one more example, and that's prepaying insurance. Now, again, it's up to your creativity to figure out how can I become more financially resilient. But prepaying insurance, would do that. Obviously, it gives you then some cushion. If something did happen, you have less expenses because it's prepaid. Now, you might say, well, I could put that money to use in the interim, and that's true. Maybe you can, right? So you have to consider that. However, in most cases, insurances, you can either pay a lump sum, whether every 6 months, or for the whole year, or you have installments. And there's usually, even though they'll say there's no interest, but there's installment fees. So it's essentially the same thing. So let's say you had $150 insurance payment, and you can pay in advance, right? So a lot of times they'll even give you a bigger break than this, but let's just say they don't. Let's just say it's the same, and the only difference is installment fees. So let's say you pay $150 a month for a year. That's $1,800, okay? And let's say you have a $6 installment fee, right? And they're usually relatively low, and on a monthly basis, you look at it and you're like, it's only $6, right? So 6 times 12 is $72. Now, so you go, okay, well, I just paid $72, and that allowed me to spread it out over the year. Well, let me ask you a question. If you put $1,800 in the bank, would you earn $72 in interest? The answer is no, you absolutely wouldn't, right? So now if we take 72 divided by $1,800, that's about it's 4%. Okay, so you're saving 4%. Now that's not a lot, and that's probably what, true inflation might be even a little more than that. But again, I said resilience is not always efficient, right? It's not always the most efficient, but it's giving you some more resilience. So you do save 4%, right? It's kind of like so you're trading, you're getting 4%. But the point is that if you had extra money and you were working on resilience, that would be one way to do it. Okay, and you'd save a little bit of money by doing it. And then what happens if 3-4 months into the year you have you take a hit on income, lose your job or whatever? Well, you still have 8 months worth of insurance that's paid. It's one less thing you have to worry about. Okay, that's resilience. That's, you're a little more resilient. So I think that it has to be a part of everybody's plan. And I think it goes hand in hand with financial independence, because, you know, part of being financially independent is, well, we want to stay that way. Okay. So that's the tip for today is to think through financial resilience and how that fits into a financial independence plan. All right. And I'll leave it there.